Hi, Liz.
Hi, Matthew David.
I'm excited to be making this video. And for all of those who are watching on Grace's YouTube or wherever you happen to be seeing this video, I'm Matthew David Morris, and this is Liz Klein, our deacon at Grace Memorial. And we're going to be talking about something that Liz gets very excited to talk about. It's true, isn't it, Liz?
Yeah, it's
Lent.
true.
It's Lent. It's the season of Lent. It's right around the corner.
It's Lent.
I have never known anyone who is as enthusiastic about Lent as you are. It's an interesting thing to be enthusiastic about this particular season. Where did that enthusiasm come from?
Well, God has blessed me with a lot of enthusiasm for a while. First of all, Lent has really taken on a new meaning or more meaning in the last 5 years, I would say. Interestingly, as I think about it, that's when I also have had more time since retiring as a family doctor.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because Lent, I was also brought up in the Episcopal Church, baptized a baby. There are different kinds of things that children are invited to do, like giving things up, for example. It's one of the first ways that we engage with Lent. And then we have this relationship with it as we grow into adulthood and start to ask ourselves questions about how to observe, like, how am I going to do Lent? We don't really think about that with all of the other seasons. Like, we don't think, how am I going to do Epiphany? I'm sure there are some people who do. But Lent is this very intentional time. Like, when you didn't have time, what was Lent like for you?
Well, I still observed it, usually by doing something more rather than doing something less. I often say, what will be your feast and what will be your fast? And so my feast was reading the Psalms or reading Walter Brueggemann's book about Lent. So doing something extra. I have given up chocolate in the past. And I'm not so sure that brought me all that much closer to God, actually. But
we do this thing intentionally. The fasting, kind of, no chocolate or whatever the no is, or the feasting, like engaging in more scripture or reading or taking on a discipline, but that it's with this intention of getting closer to God. Part of my experience has been that closeness to God happens to me sometimes when I least expect it.
Right.
And it leads me to believe that if I have anything to do with the matter, it's usually not pulling God closer, right? My tendency is to go I'm doing things that take my attention away from God, full stop. Do you feel like Lent is a way of flipping that around? And whatever it is that you're doing it with the intention of remembering God.
Right. Remembering God, reconciliation. It's about dwelling on the relationship with God, relationship with others.
I had a friend who I saw, she posted on Twitter that her Lenten practice, one of her favorite ones that she does, is that she will go through and write letters to the people in her life that she loves, who she hasn't corresponded with in ages. Not online. She won't do it on Facebook. She won't do it. She'll write a letter, and then she'll pray for that person all the way to the mailbox and be very intentional about it. And
I love that.
Isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful. Other people fast from buying things online and think about how much money they would spend, and then they actually give it to their favorite charity.
What are the things that people might not know about Lent that you think are really important for them to know?
One of the things I think is really fascinating is it's 40 days, not including Sundays. And I think people would be interested to know that actually it's 40 days that it takes to really develop good habits. And I know this because I'm a family doctor.
Because you're a doctor.
Specifically, I helped a lot of patients make healthy changes. And it takes 30 to 40 days. Isn't that interesting?
That is fascinating.
Lent not only is a time for preparing for baptism, but it was a time for people who had been separated from the church to come back into the church, to be welcomed back into the church.
So people who had been separated for having done wrong by the church, that's really fascinating. I know there are lots of people who feel like the church has cast them out. whether or not they deserve to be cast, out in the first place. Coming from the LGBTQ community, I have lots of people I'm connected to who feel like the church is not a safe space for them. And in some ways, it's not that they need to be reconciled to the church. The church, in some ways, needs to reconcile to the people that it's harmed too. And since we're all a part of that community, even people like me who are, queer folk who are also in the church, asking that question of what does reconciliation mean? How do we do it collectively? How do we do it individually? Who has been harmed? And it may be us. There may be people who are in like the presence of, worshiping on Sunday who feel that kind of harm. And maybe this is a time to be inspective about that. If people who are watching this video from Grace find themselves having questions about Lent or curiosity about Lent, or want to process a little bit of whatever's coming up when they think about reconciliation or, feasting or fasting, could they reach out to you?
Absolutely.
You have so much experience and wisdom and interest in what the potential of this season. And so if people wanted to tap into that a little bit, you'd be down.
Yeah, that would be.
Oh my gosh, is that someone calling right now? Thank you so much, Liz, for taking this time to talk and for sharing your love of Lent with the community of Grace.
Thank you, Matthew David.